What's going on, everybody?
And we're back for the last week of the season.
Last week of the season. We are a dynamic duo tonight. Michael's got some work stuff that he is dealing. Well, actually, no, that's not what's going on.
Just like many other people now, Michael, entered the transfer portal as well.
Yeah, it's the podcast portal.
Yeah,
he is weighing his options. He's seeing what the best decision is for him, and we hope that he is back with us next week. But
I know he's having a good time in Colorado. He's visiting over there.
Mm-hmm.
They're choosing to live there, testing the waters. Maybe he gets back to Tennessee. We don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. But now Michael's dealing with some work stuff, so he is not unfortunately on with us tonight. But hey, I think we'll be able to hold it down. But tonight we're going to be talking about obviously rivalry week, flag planting, fighting, lots of good stuff. This is sounding like the 80s and 90s.
Let me help you out, Michigan.
And well, we're going to talk about some of that too. Yes. But we'll be back in just a second. All right. So obviously it was a big weekend. It was rivalry weekend. And before it was a very interesting weekend. Very sad for me, but we'll get into that later. I guess we'll start off by just going through our games. Obviously, Michael, if I remember correctly, he picked the Texas A&M game, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So I think that was a little bit closer than I was expecting it to be, much like most of the games this past weekend. But yeah, Texas, I think, was the victor there, 17-7, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I think it was a pretty uneventful game. But I'm pretty sure. Did Michael pick Texas A&M to pull the upset?
He picked Texas A&M, I believe.
Yeah. So he was wrong. He picked the wrong upset because there were a lot of other ones in the weekend.
I feel like we all picked the wrong one this week.
We did.
But I feel like with Michael's game with Texas and Texas A&M, I feel like even with the score shows, I feel like it was definitely a lopsided game.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, I feel like just ran away with it. They're just kind of cruising.
Yeah. They're just kind of getting ready for SEC championships where they will face Georgia, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep, they'll face Georgia in 4 days. So we'll be ready for that. Now, Dennis, remind us of your game.
My game, was South Carolina versus Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
The result of it, I knew we all talked about it, the possibility of hey, it could definitely go either way. I thought it was going to be Clemson, just them being the home team.
Yeah.
Even though, the schools are, I think, roughly about an hour and a half from one another or so. But I feel like with so much on the line, I feel like, Clemson has to kind of come through.
Right.
Like if Dabo's going to do anything, is just win when basically he has to, at least I would assume you're not going to take anything in the portal. You might as well win when you need to.
Right.
But no, they kind of choked at the end though. South Carolina just kind of came back and were able to score. I believe it was Sellers that kind of did the last second kind of score in the fourth quarter, and Clemson just one reason or another they choked at the end.
Yep.
Disappointed even because of the aftermath of the effect of that, which I know we're going to talk about later. But the playoffs, I'm like, I really wanted you to go in there to prevent certain other teams. And then I kind of wanted, a favor of 2 ACC teams to be in there. And I'm like, hey, I'll take Clemson because they've shown to be able to beat SEC teams. And
right,
they've been wrong. So we got that.
We got that. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting game. I'm with you. It just kind of I don't feel like they just kind of choked, in my opinion. So I definitely see that. South Carolina.
They're not a bad team.
No, they're not a bad team. Obviously they're ranked 15. If you go back to, I'm blanking on who it was that they had a pick six that was returned for a block. Was that LSU? If I remember, was that against LSU where they had?
Yeah, it was LSU. It was the flag.
Yep.
But like roughing the passer.
Roughing the passer.
Yeah.
You know, they don't get that call, and they beat LSU there. And I think South Carolina, we're looking at a top 10 team.
No, I mean all their losses literally came at like one scores. Like you said, LSU, Bama. They had when they got the onside kick.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember exactly what happened during that game, but I feel like Sellers just kind of ran around and threw a pick. I feel like the last second, like he was going for a score, and so like, hey, you know, I believe you can go for field goal.
Yeah,
to win the game still, and yet he's like, no, I want to go big. I mean,
right.
That kind of shows the inexperience that he has, but I mean, I admire it, but at the same time, like you don't have to go for the big score.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think it just proves like they're a good team, and 15 is 15 is where they're at. They easily could have been top 10, maybe even top 5. A couple plays here and there, go a different way. So yeah, fun game. Again, like you said, we can talk about the ramifications of that game here in a little bit. But I know that you're itching for me to get into me being wrong about the Big Ten championship, or not I'm sorry, the game.
The game. I love how you just kind of skipped it. You know, it was the Big Ten.
Yeah, I was already looking ahead. It's just kind of there still. But yeah, so obviously Ohio State got their butts handed to them by Michigan. The game was 13-10. The score, I don't think really even I'm trying to figure out how to say this, because Ohio State was dominated that game, but the score still makes sense. So like, we're talking about the Texas A&M game where it's 17-7 doesn't even really show how much Texas kind of controlled that game.
Yeah, I mean, they just cruise controlled the second half. I don't think we scored anything at all. Or
13-10 for our game doesn't show how much Michigan really did kind of hand that to us.
I just want to ask real quick. I remember you said 2 scores.
Yes.
You mean like the team was going to have 2 scores?
Yeah, no, it's that's how many 2 scores was how many scores we were not going to get because our kicker couldn't hit a chip shot field goal.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I was like,
that's where it was.
My memory's not the best, so
that's fine. That's fine. I'm here to remind you. I trust me. I know. I kept the receipts. I know exactly what I said. But no, it was really like, one, give it to Michigan. There was like one path for them to win, and that path had a couple things that they needed to do. Slow the game down, run the ball. Not win the turnover battle, kind of play smart defense, or play a smart game plan. But the one thing that they had to have that was not in their control is they just had to have Ohio State play stupid. And that's exactly what Ohio State did. The game plan, I don't know what the game plan is. I don't think you can tell that by watching this game, because what it looked like the game plan was, oh, hey, their defensive line is one of the best in the country. Let's run at them.
So
it didn't work.
I actually want to ask you that, is the fact that you guys as a team, like the skill players, you guys, if you guys don't have the best skill players, all in all of college football, you guys definitely one of the top teams that does. Is like, I guess, was it a sense of pride for the coaching? Just like, hey, we're going to play Michigan's game to make a point, to prove something because of rival. Like, I want to know the thing, because like skill wise, I honestly thought you guys were like could have dominated. I feel like that's what kind of kept the score close.
Yeah.
Because when you guys decided to use the skill players, hey, look at that. You guys were able to move the ball.
That is the question that I think all of Ohio State fandom is asking, and has been, like, waking up with cold sweats of, just running straight towards freaking Mason Graham. Like, hey, I want another Mason Graham hug. But I don't know, because like you said, the couple times that they went into a 2-minute to end the half, and man, they were just 8 yards here, JJ Smith making a great catch, and Mecca Ibuka, like, they were distributing, they were getting the ball out quick, and they looked good. And why they didn't keep that up like that going into halftime, I was I was upset most of the first half. And then going into halftime after that drive, there was this little bit of like relief. Like, I'm like, okay, they started getting it going. We're going to be okay. The second half is going to come and we're just going to kind of steamroll.
Yeah, because I mean, normally in the past, you guys don't even normally wait till the second half. You guys start kind of like
about second
moving
quarter.
the ball and start kind of like, like either beginning or middle way of the quarter. And then you're like, okay, then now we're going to see them basically kind of moving the progression of the game upwards to the second half.
And I wish I could tell you that I knew, but I still am just dumbfounded by that. I don't know. Like it was a very poorly executed game plan. If it was even an executed game plan,
like,
but I think
weakness because you guys have more people hurt than anything. You're like, yeah, we're gonna test our weakness. I'm like, okay.
Well, and I think to your point, and I'll kind of touch on this after we get done talking about the actual game. Mm-hmm. I do think that there was a sense of pride with Ryan Day where, you know, the stat that was the past 22, now 23 games, the team with the leading rushing has won the game. So the team that rushes the best, that's the team that's won. And so I think that there was a little bit of, hey, this is our year and we've got the players and they're down and we can, it's almost like playing with, you know, a dog playing with its food playing, you know, it's like, okay, we're good. So let's go run and let's go run them over and let's just, you know, prove the point. And that's all well and good, but to not change that up when it's like, okay, now they're actually proven that they're not going to bend here and they're not going to break. So let's switch it back up and let's do what we need to do and play the game that we need to play to win. So yeah, I don't know.
Naturally for you guys, because like Michigan had Will Johnson out, so it's like their best corner. So that, you know, they're going to have to put like either another DB back there or just kind of play like kind of over the top defense with their secondary. So you're like, hey, that gives us room to literally let our running backs kind of loose and kind of play the game that they were brought to play.
And Colston Loveland was out.
Yeah.
And he didn't play. And I mean, there was Will Levis threw a really bad interception in, you know, their own side of the field that gave him that touchdown. Our kicker, like, did
you meant to say that intentionally or
what did I say?
Will Levis.
Oh God! Well, being Will Howard,
you know, they both have Will in the name. But
I didn't even. No, I did not say that intentionally. But I mean, maybe it was a Freudian slip there. I mean, being a Titans fan too, you know, the Wills are just giving me some nightmares. But no, he had a bad interception that led to that. Our kicker. I mean, don't get Ohio State fans talking about kickers. You know, our kicking game is just not up to par. Hasn't been, and the kicker was shook. And apparently he was missing some field goals. He was like 14 of 14 this year, 40 yards and closer. And then
I feel like Michael, if he was here, he would definitely be able to understand you. Like I just remember a couple games of Tennessee, just like, no, the guy can't kick. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we lost 4 years in a row now. I think this one was the one that hurt the most. And one of the things, you know, so you know Darren from our Michigan friend from Darren Talks Ball. He invited me to his Discord channel where a bunch of his, you know, I get a little peek behind enemy lines there. And one of the things I'm going to make sure that I ask this. I got asked this question today, and it's been a question that I think a lot of Ohio State fans have talked about. But the question was, did I even take the right picture of the right thing? Essentially, he was asking me how I felt about Ryan Day, like in terms of getting rid of him. You know, should he still be there? Should he not? And, you know, I've been a Ryan Day supporter. This is his first time as a head coach. I've kind of taken the stance of new head coach. He's getting his bearings. He's done better every year in terms of, you know, relinquishing play calling and kind of adjusting to what he's doing. When the game ended and I walked away, I was like, okay, you know, I'm just going to go and we're just going to kind of live life and get away from the game for a minute. And honestly, as I thought about it more and more this weekend, I've gotten progressively madder. And not like, you know, my life's it's not like my life is ruined and I'm like, get angry every day when I wake up. Yeah, my day is not ruined, but it's one of those things that this is year 5 for Ryan Day. One of the things that he has always been questioned about has been his play calling and his choices of plays. And, why are you doing certain things in certain positions? And this was the year that I felt like it was almost dummy proof, especially with this Michigan game. It's like, go out and just let them do what they've been doing all year. And he somehow still screwed it up. So I think that I have officially kind of jumped onto the get rid of Ryan Day. I'm on the his seat is not hot. His seat is on fire and should be getting out of Columbus.
No, so I mean, I'm not as big of an Ohio State fan as you are or anything.
Really?
I like Ohio State. Don't get me wrong. I do like them. As much as it may not show it, I actually do.
Right.
But I can't agree with you all the time, or else it just wouldn't be fun.
This wouldn't be fun.
But like as you said though, like Ryan Day is his first time head coach. I feel like if you were still coaching versus like Harbaugh, then I mean, okay, obviously this guy is a veteran. This guy's experience. Just the experience just outdid him. Right. But now you have more, which is like his first time coaching. Mm-hmm. So it's just like no. It's where like either his I don't want to say inexperience because he definitely has experience, but his I guess youthfulness or his pride maybe as an individual kind of overtook the coaching part where he's like, I have to beat teams like they beat me. When it's like I would say if you're playing a team that is not known for a specific way of style, then by all means go for it. Right. I don't see why you would, because that's just more you're risking it when you don't have to. But exactly. The fact that he wanted to do that with so much at risk versus a team that doesn't even is named in that part of the state. So it's just like, why would you do this? Why, like, out of all things? And you can see him. Like, I'm pretty sure you saw maybe some tapes or it's up to that's tapes, but some like just videos of him just like in a complete like lost. Yeah, like he didn't know where he was. I was like, this dude just seemed like he just I feel like I'm watching a rerun of The Hangover. And he's right.
It's like, dude, where's my car?
Yeah. He just entirely lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that frustrates me is a couple of the things that I've heard. And again, I don't know, they're rumors. I don't know how true it is. One was that he has been talking to people almost talking like an exit plan in terms of reaching out to teams about coaching, the possibility of head coaching positions should he be fired from Ohio State. So there's rumors about that.
I've heard just college football or like NFL. Like, I mean,
I don't know. Yeah. I've heard within college football. But again, those are rumors, and those I don't know that there's any like actual sources for that. The other thing is that I've heard that he took play calling over from Chip Kelly. So if that is the truth, that you bring in Chip Kelly to be your play caller, and then in the biggest game you take it over and blow it, then you've got that going on. And then in his press conferences after the game, I even told my wife, so listen, my wife is a very intelligent woman. She knows some about college football, but she does not know much. And when I explained to her, when she was like, why are you getting so mad? I'm like, they have one of the best defensive lines in college football. We keep running into them. They keep stopping us and we're not changing. And she was like, well, that's dumb. Yes. Yes. And it's like, so even my unfootball educated wife can look at something and go, it's like, what is it? Like the definition of idiocy is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like here we are. And so again, I can't verify all that, but if that is all true, it's just a slap in the face to Ohio State fans. And man, I can't defend it anymore. It's just gotten to a point where like, it's just bad.
Like it's great that he could win basically all the other games, but it's just like can you win the big game? Can you win the game where like the team, the school is actually on the same level as Ohio State? Where he's like,
right.
we can understand like, cool, hey, you beat Penn State. Well, guess what? I feel like most people would agree with like Ohio State's right here. Penn State is just right here. Like
Yeah.
where Michigan, Ohio State's like, no, they're on the same level. They're on the same basis.
Right. Yeah, brand wise, they're on the same level. But then again, the past few years, I think that's a great analogy. Like they're both right here. This year, and again, if you're in Michigan, Michigan was down here. Like
I feel
Michigan
kind of
they were down a little bit. And so that makes it even worse. Like they were having a down year and we still couldn't beat them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that's, people, Ohio State fans are going to talk, one of the big question marks was always his record against the top 5 and the top 10 was not great. People, I remember after the Indiana game and the Penn State game this year, people saying, well, are they going to add these to his top 5? These were both top 5 wins. And I'm going, they technically speaking are top 5 wins.
Yeah.
But when you look at it in a, are we going to keep our coach mindset? They're not, because they're flash in the pans. Everybody knows Penn State is kind of top 5 for most of the year. And then they lose to Ohio State and they lose to somebody else. And they end up 8, 9, 10, 12, somewhere down there. So
I guess my question to you, with that is like, what would Ohio State or, specifically Ryan Day would need to do to be like, to be able to shake that off where it's like, hey, it's not, I'm not beating just teams that are, they just happen to be in the top 5. They just happen to be in the top 10.
Right.
But like, show kind of dominance or is like established, like kind of confidence.
So what my confidence level would be, like, let's say we keep him next year. He would have to, when you're supposed to beat a team by 20, you beat a team by 20. You don't have a fall off against Nebraska where you barely win. When you're supposed to beat a Michigan by 23, again, different scenario, like beating Michigan by 23. I never really think that's going to happen, but when you're supposed to win, you're supposed to win. And then, like realistically, let's look at the playoffs. Like you got a worse seed now. So instead, yeah, exactly. Darren, that you mentioned that, Darren just said Ryan Day is equal to Mark Richt. And it's at this point, 100% Ryan Day is Mark Richt. Like he's always there. He's always kind of on that, the coattails, but he's never getting the big win. And even if Ryan Day, let's just say this, Ryan Day runs the playoffs, right? He runs through the playoffs somehow, and again, I'm not going to say Ryan Day, Ohio State makes it to the play or runs through the playoffs, wins the chit into the natty. I still would not believe that was Ryan Day's coaching. I would believe that was the talent of the players that kind of overcame his coaching.
I do want to say, though, I am genuinely surprised that only one Ohio State player actually entered the transfer portal.
Yeah, so far.
Like, I don't know, like you're saying, like, hey, it's the team or the coach. Like, I don't know if that's because, like, obviously, like when you hear the team kind of talk about one another in interviews, like you could tell there's like a brotherhood there. Like, they genuinely want to be there. Everybody's there with the purpose. So it's like, I don't know if it's the culture that Ryan Day brought or just the players that themselves created, and Ryan Day just happens to be the benefactor of it.
That's
for him, but also like
no,
which one is it? Like,
yeah, and I mean Ohio State has had the brotherhood for a while. Like they've called it the brotherhood for a while, and I don't, Ryan Day. I was thinking about this today. When you go back to it, one of the things that Ryan Day is kind of known for is like he's a player's coach. Like he's always been, chummy with the players. And, there's those kind of cringy videos of him like dancing and like in the middle doing all this kind of stuff. And I start to wonder, like you go back to like when he was the offensive coordinator for Urban Meyer, when he was, that guy, was he the good cop to Urban Meyer's bad cop? And Urban Meyer was the one that was kind of keeping everybody in line. Here's what we're doing. I'm the bad cop that's going to, I'm going to get you there, but I'm going to be a jerk and you're not going to like me. And Ryan Day could kind of be that like, oh, it's okay, man. That's just how he is. You're still good, And when he became the head coach, well, who's the bad cop now? Who's the one that's going to hold guys accountable and kind of make them do the dirty work, make them tough, make them all that.
I mean, a lot of the other coaches you see, like top coaches you see right now, let it be, Kirby, or even if you stay within the Big Ten, Signetti, like you could just tell like their energy, like how they are. It's just like, hey, their expectation of things, like they may crack a few jokes, be extremely dry humor with it. It's great, but you could tell like, hey, is there. But as you say, like they kind of like is more like, joking around, like, hey, no, it's all good, don't worry about it.
Right.
I don't know. It's like it can be great, but at the same time, like, can you know when to like flip the switch and be like, hey, we need intensity, not like hold my hand.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm kind of at with them. I think, hey, great learning experience. We'll see what happens, but I don't know that I can handle another much more Ryan Day play calling. I've given him too much credit for too long, and I'll take that back. I think that for a first-time coach running a big program, or a first-time head coach, I should say, he didn't do horribly, but there's just different expectations at this level.
Yeah.
And had he started off, if we're going to stay in the Big Ten, had he started off at an Indiana, at a Northwestern, and kind of like proven himself, maybe he could have stepped into a role like this and done really well.
Like he was part of Ohio State, and then Ohio State having one of the best known rivalries in sports. So it's like you kind of bit a lot. Like you did great in one, but you're struggling in the other.
Well, again, one of the things I talk about a lot with Urban Meyer, he always won the big game, but he would randomly drop, Iowa, Purdue, like Maryland. You play these games, but he won the big one. Like when it mattered, he won the big one.
Yeah.
And Ryan Day's kind of the opposite of that. Like he wins the games that he's not supposed to, or I'm sorry, he wins the games that he's supposed to win. But then in those toss-up games, when it's a play call here, a coaching decision there, he just kind of sucks.
Like I really feel like the playoffs is going to basically determine if it's him, essentially, because like there's some teams are going to be in that kind of gap of either like already well-established schools, like to the same extent as Ohio State, or even ones that are coming and growing and going, hey, these are the next ones. They're going to be probably, since the 12-team playoffs, going to be regularly part of the playoffs, like conversation.
Your Oregons and all them. But before we get too far into that, the end of the Ohio State Michigan game, which I'll be honest, I did not get to see any of this, so I don't have any first. Like the game ended, I turned it off, and I went to watch Moana 2 with the kids. So I didn't see the end, but Ohio State and Michigan ended in some fighting, which seemed to be a trend in this rivalry game. Like I saw, obviously, Ohio State came across my news feed first with all the fighting and pepper spray and all kinds of craziness. But then as I dug into it, I think there were 8 games that ended in some form of fighting, flag planting, whatever it may be. So Dennis, before I, obviously I talk a lot. What are your thoughts about all this? We're seeing this a lot more. What are you thinking?
So I know like the whole planting the flag is not anything new, even before like people like to say Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield actually went to go say like, hey, between, for example, another like strong rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma, that it's something that was always been done. Like each game, it's a neutral field, but it's something that's always been done. I personally like the whole kind of plant the flag. Obviously, if you're in turf, it's not going to happen.
Right. Which always like know your field, man. Know your field. Like if it's turf.
I respect the player, Arizona State and Arizona, where he used the trident. I'm like, man, he actually got it stuck for you. Like, but you tap it, it fell off. So like, I respect that player. But I like it because it also kind of, I feel like, creates another level to a rivalry.
Yeah.
And I feel like with so much emotion and so much kind of like I feel like it creates more excitement, more and I feel like in the world now where we see NIL transfers and that, you want to be able to not say, hey, we defeated our biggest rival.
Yeah.
Let it be, in this case, Ohio State or that. Like, not only did we do that, but yeah, now we got video and picture like of us standing in the O, like with our
right.
So it's like it adds more in where like the transfer portal can be, like Michigan can be swept away by paying a player, $10 million plus. So it's like, but that little notion of a player doing that or a team doing that, I feel like can be kind of like, you know what, I want to be part of that. I want to be the next picture of that. So I like it in terms of the whole additional fighting. I know maybe it sounds a bit childish, but I'm like the people are saying like, oh, like I don't like the fighting part. Don't get me wrong, but the people say like, hey, like if you don't like it, don't lose. If it was a regular game, I'd be like, you're doing too much. A rivalry game, I'm like, I'm all for it. I feel like that's a whole different scale of things. So I'll be for it.
Yeah, I really struggle with this because I definitely am a proponent of it's do it on the field, right? Yeah. Like show it on the field. If you don't want us, it's kind of like I go back to like Ohio State running in that touchdown against Indiana. As much as I personally didn't really like that, and I feel like they should have either knelt the ball or ran an actual play. It does kind of go back to that. Okay, if you don't like it, then just stop it. Like that's just kind of part of football.
Well, with Penn State, like their pass game,
right?
Like, hey, I put in my third and fourth string. You don't like?
I put my third and fourth, and your first word, you couldn't stop us. Like that's on you. I think that where I'm kind of starting to get a little concerned. I don't know the proper word here because at the end of the day, I don't care about the flag planting. I care about the fighting that comes afterwards. Yeah. And I look at things like storming the field. Storming the field this year seemed like it became this, hey, you storm the field for a win. When it used to be, you did that again at the rivalry game, at these big games. There's
a massive upset,
yes. But it became this, like, it just seemed like everybody was doing it just so they could do it. Like, I personally don't care about the flag planting, but there's so much emotion behind it. And it's one of those things that happens all year long. Like Michigan, Ohio State have been talking smack to each other all year long. And then as Michigan's entering the stadium, Ohio State and Michigan are talking smack to each other. Yeah. It just makes me like the fighting and your guys are punching people in the face, face mask with their hands. Like, again, never understood that part of it. I don't know. Like, again, I don't care about the flag planting. I just start to see, players got pepper sprayed at the Ohio State Michigan game.
Yeah.
Like that is crazy to me that it got to a point where that happened. And so I just start going, okay, if we're to a point where the emotions, like the letting these guys get to this point, if we're to a point where it's going to end in fighting and pepper spray, like something's got to change. There's winning and losing graciously, like all of those things are 100%, but something's got to change if we're going to see this many fights. Like I get that it's rivalry.
All emotions are high.
Emotions are high. It's a big game. Michigan, who is so happy because they just upset, Ohio State, when I don't know a person that thought that they were going to do it.
No, I mean, I work with like people who are actual like Michigan fans, and they're like, we don't know how it happened, but we'll take it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, hey, you're being honest.
I respect you so much more when that kind of stuff happens. Like I respect you more when you're like, I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
I do want to say this. I don't know if you caught it because I can understand if you already mentally checked out by that time.
No, I didn't catch anything because we were too busy running the freaking ball.
No, I was gonna say, like, when the game was ending, basically the last seconds were ticking. I don't know if you heard like the commentators was like, hey, like Ohio State, we did it. No cheating this time. I was like, the fact that the commentator, the announcer, I'm like, that's such a. I'm like, I love the fact that you did that, but such a sly thing. You just had to say it.
Yeah,
I was like,
I actually didn't. When I turned off the TV as soon as we turned it over on downs. Like I was just like,
oh yeah, it happened like probably the very next play after that.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, I didn't hear that. But hey, again, like for all those fans, again, I've tried not to say much about the whole cheating allegations and all that, just because we don't know anything and I don't want to get into it. But we can't say anything about that this week.
Yeah,
we can't say anything.
They Michigan definitely earned the win, but yeah, I mean overall though.
Yeah, I just think in terms of like the flag planting, I could care less about the flag planting, but we cannot have the fights like we've had. That's just.
And then I do believe a lot of the schools have been kind of like just rushing the field. There's some games where I didn't really understand it, where I'm like, hey, you guys are both ranked teams. Both teams in the conference were said like you guys were both favorites to either one win it. Why are you rushing the field when you beat the other team? And it's not even the deciding factor of the end of the season. It's like the championship game of the conference. I'm like, that part doesn't make sense to me. But there's some games obviously that I'm like, no, rush the field 100% needs to be done.
Yeah, and time and a place. There's always a time and a place. But the time and the place isn't every single day, every single game.
If it's done every single week, then I'm like, no, you lost the point of it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's I'm going to talk about something happy. I'm done talking about Ohio State losing. Let's get into next week. So what we've got coming up this week, obviously we're going to, let me cancel that. Sorry, I was about to end the stream way early. So we've got
you really don't want to talk about anything that has nothing to do with Ohio State. I'm like, no,
right. Like, no, Ohio State playing this week. We can end early. No big deal. So we got championship week. We can run. Well, I was going to say we'll run down all of them, but no, we don't need to run down all of them. We'll talk about
the key ones, obviously.
The key ones. So yeah, we've got UNLV and Boise State. So that will be one. Boise State is -4 there. Let's go. Okay. So we've got Iowa State, Arizona State. So you have any thoughts about that one?
I'm gonna I like the way Arizona State's been kind of playing the past few weeks. I'm gonna ride them. Would call it as my pick still.
Okay.
I know Michael kind of favored them early on in the season. I think you may have too as well.
I don't think I did.
You didn't? Okay. Then.
I don't think so.
Pretty sure I think Michael may have mentioned it then. Arizona, neither of those teams were in my pick, but I like the way Arizona State's been playing. My pick would be them to be able to win the Big 12.
Yeah, as Joe just said, Joseph, their number one receiver is out, so they are going to have a little bit more difficult of a time with that. I personally like Iowa State. I think they've been playing some good ball. I like their coach. I think he's got the feel good story of the week. I'm pretty sure he's the one that gave his bonus to all of his staffers. Was that Arizona State?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it ASU? Oh, I was thinking ISU.
Yeah.
So Arizona State. Okay. So not the feel good. I was getting them mixed up there. So never mind. But no, Iowa State. Okay. Maybe I don't know what I'm.
They have similar colors. I'll give you that. They have very similar colors.
Similar colors.
Yeah. Different sides of the.
I want to get over to my notepad and make sure that I'm saying what I actually believe. Where is it? Okay. Yes. So I actually agree with you. So yeah, I got Arizona State on there as well. Probably should have known that by heart, but I didn't. My bad.
I said something in our group chat about it, man. I'm like,
you did.
Impressive right here.
Listen, I've had a hard week, so you gotta let me have a pass there.
Yeah.
So that's right. I got a few weeks to go. So we're gonna skip. We'll talk about that one in the middle. So we've got Clemson, SMU as our ACC. I'm actually going to take a little bit of like it's an upset. I think it's an upset, even though it's not in terms of ranking. But I think I'm going with SMU.
like I want either team that wins. I'm gonna be happy because I had them both as my pick to win the ACC, with SMU being my dark horse. So I'm glad the fact that it ended up coming down to this.
Part of this dark horse is actually it has a horse in the mascot. So this year,
you're not wrong. Like I want SMU to win. Part of me though wants Clemson to win, but a very tight score just to beat the two ACC teams, so that one team cannot be included. And like, do I want SMU to win? Yes, I actually do. I feel like they're a much better team. I feel like they're much better built to be able to compete, not versus every single team in the playoffs, but to possibly make some noise.
Yeah.
So I like SMU would be my pick too, but it's just like
So you're picking with your heart here. This is a heart pick. You want SMU to win, but you really just want two teams in one of them.
The pettiness of me wants Clemson.
And
like the deep down, my heart is like, I've been picking SMU since before during the preseason. Like I should just keep following it. So it's like, do I want to be petty or do I just want to keep following that? But
you always choose petty. If the choice is there, you choose petty.
Yeah. And I hope so. But like the fact that I've seen some rumors, the fact that, hey, if SMU is to lose, then they're not going to be in the playoffs, and that's where Bama takes place. That kind of really annoys me because I'm like, SMU is a great team. Then I'm like, they would have 2 losses at that point, but I'm like, hey, they're also in the conference championship. That means that you're going to actually like default them. So that kind of annoys me if those rumors are true. If those rumors are true, then yes, 100% SMU. If those rumors aren't true, give me Clemson.
Yeah, it's such like an if or, right? It's like, well, if the rumors were true, because it's like Bama, man, somehow, how are they just always somehow squeaking in? Or
you got beat by two of those teams being unranked teams,
right?
And they're like barely over 500, or maybe one of them I think is probably at 500 now.
And 500.
Yeah, so it's just like,
yes, agreed, Darren. If Bama gets in, we riot. We can agree on that one.
Yeah. I don't believe a 3-loss team should be in there, especially when you have other teams who are 2-loss teams that have literally shown to be like they're worth there to be there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just the thought of Bama getting in kind of makes me mad. But so while we're talking SEC, we'll just go ahead and go to Georgia, Texas here. Georgia, Texas. Again, no Bama, but somehow we're still talking about Bama. We got a rematch from a game that we saw earlier this year, which, if I'm remembering correctly, somebody just kind of got walloped in that game.
Oh yeah, that game was brutal, man.
Yeah. So it was a bad game. I think Texas is still. Let me see the line here. Negative -2.5. So it's still coming up as a close game. I don't know that I see it. I think that this is one of those. I think Georgia just kind of has their number. And I again, I don't know that it's not going to be a close game. I just don't see Texas pulling this one out.
I would agree with that, mostly because of the fact that the Georgia game, and I hate the fact that I'm agreeing with you on this because it's already that 3 games, but the fact that I feel like the SEC game is played in Georgia, right?
Yeah, at Mercedes-Benz.
So it's basically a home game for them, which, I mean, like you said earlier, before they played at Texas and they played at Texas, now they play at Georgia. Yep. I feel like that's going to be given to Georgia, and then they're going to end up winning that. If it was played at a neutral, like a genuinely neutral site, I would want to give it to Texas because I'm like, okay, you learned from your first mistake. Let's try it again. But this time I would give it to Georgia just because it's now like it's a home game for them.
Right. Yeah. The Texas Georgia, like you said, it's a home game for Georgia. I don't see Texas pulling this out. Obviously, they're going to end up in the playoffs.
I mean, Joseph isn't wrong either. I completely agree with you.
Yes. Yeah. If Bama, like, again, I think Ohio State's there too, especially for all you Michigan people. But Bama doing good. I don't think anybody likes that. except for Bama fans.
Like, I would be okay if Bama's doing good if they didn't have 3. If they had 2 losses, I'd be completely fine with it.
Sure.
But if they have you have 3, that's my
right. And if one of those losses wasn't Vanderbilt, so
like by all means, I would give it to you. Actually, I feel like maybe because I'm a little biased guy, like I like the Vanderbilt loss because Vanderbilt's the feel good story. I just feel I don't know if I feel more so because like you lost to Oklahoma, where everybody just thought you dead in the water. Where people are like, oh, Vanderbilt has some life. Everybody's like, oh, it's sooner. They're soon to be dead or alive. Which one is going to be?
Vandy bowling, baby. That is
exactly.
Vandy is the feel good story. I mean, they were bowl eligible in October. I have not done all the research, but I don't know if that's ever happened before. I'm sure it has. Back in the 40s or something.
Was that like 3 games to get in?
Yeah. And Mr. Fabulous, yes, I don't want Miami anywhere near the playoffs. I picked them as my ACC winner earlier at the beginning of the year. Yeah. Obviously, I was wrong. I was wrong about a lot of things this year. So, I'm used to it. I'm turning into Michael this year.
Like, I'm kind of glad Miami is not being featured on the. I know probably what held their weight a lot towards the end of the season was their win versus Florida in the first week.
Yeah,
but I feel like since then, especially the last 3 weeks, losing 2 out of 3, I'm like, you just have to go because the 2 out of 3 you did lose, but there's other games where like you should have lost those, and I feel like more people are kind of being more aware of that. They're like, yeah, it's not like you almost lost this, like you should have lost that. Those were handed to you.
Yeah, and again, Joseph, here we go again. The way they lost to the OU. Yeah, you couple that with a Vanderbilt loss, and then a third one, and yes, they shouldn't be there. So now I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering names, I know Darren obviously is Michigan. Mr. Fabulous, I think is in that Discord channel. He's one of the Michigan folks there. So we're gonna move to the Big Ten.
I love it they're here for you. See, they're so supportive of you, man.
They're such good people. They're such good people. It's good people. There are lots of good people who cheer for the wrong teams. It's okay.
They choose for the winning team.
Yeah, shut up.
They'll tell you.
We said we were going to stop talking about that. So yes, the Big Ten matchup, which does not feature Ohio State this year, it features Penn State and Oregon. So
you guys did lose to Oregon, so I mean,
we did. We lose to we played. We're praying for
some kind of like, feel good story.
That's right. Yeah, Mr. Fabulous, I appreciate you. I'll take all the prayers I can get. And yes, Darren, losing to Vandy should kick you out of the SEC. I like it. So, but hey, they would have kicked a couple people out this year.
Yeah.
But okay, so Penn State, Oregon, going to be playing for the Big Ten. Obviously, Oregon has kind of started off a little slower this year and really took off and beat Ohio State, gave it to Michigan. They played a pretty tough schedule this year and did pretty good. And they beat Ashton Genty and the Boise State Broncos. So yeah, they're number one. They're number one for a reason. And then Penn State is somehow number 3. I don't know how they always seem to be up there, but they are number 3. They will be playing for the Big Ten. So what are your thoughts, Dennis?
This game is, I feel like, one of the more interesting games because I feel like it's actually better to lose this game.
Okay.
Potentially, obviously, depending on how you end up landing. Because, like, say if Oregon is to lose and they're suddenly the number 5 in the playoffs, as we've seen, like basically how it's kind of been featured, the number 5 ranked team in the playoffs has one of the more favorable schedules.
Yeah.
Where right now it's Penn State, where they would potentially play Arizona State at home, and then they'll play Boise State in a neutral field. So it's like that's like it's crazy to say, but it's like 5 is not a bad number to be in, and it could definitely. I feel like you would give you the strongest shot of making it not just to semifinals, but to just the natty.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you. Like that 5 spot, if you're not going to be in the top 4 and get a bye, you know, obviously we have we've talked about this on our show. I personally don't like the bye. I like the idea of kind of playing and kind of keeping yourself in rhythm. A lot of people don't. A lot of people like the bye. That's fine. I think that's
I mean, we already have a few weeks of a bye, so it's like, take it.
Yeah, we have more than a few weeks of a bye, but we'll get out of that. But no, but I like that number 5 position. When you look at the way that the 12-team playoff works out, you got, you're playing 5 is playing 12, and then you get the more favorable schedule going forward. So losing that as Penn State might not be a bad idea.
Obviously, like it's not a guarantee that the team that loses in the Big Ten would get that spot, because if Texas loses, Texas could very well get that spot.
True.
And of course, that if it remains that way with Boise being the next team right there, and Arizona State, like if that kind of follows along, so it could still kind of be a toss up there. But we're just going off what it is right now. Which team do I think is going to win? Oregon. I genuinely think they're just going to be overall. I feel like Penn State's going to be the more physical team, but Oregon is just going to be like, they're just more, I guess, talented, faster. They seem to me, and I feel like that's what's going to rule them over Penn State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've got Joseph saying, if I can get it. OFU makes a run. Think it would be, people could look back and talk about how it was beneficial for them to lose Michigan rather than play Oregon. I definitely see that. One of the things that we talked about the Ohio State Oregon game was, I think that Oregon was more kind of battle tested. They had played some close ones, which was a lot of people were questioning them at the beginning of the year because they were having
we all were too, man.
We all were. Yeah. We're just like, oh man, look, they're having these close games against Boise State. They're having all these games that they should be winning. But I think that it battle tested them. And when they got to Ohio State, where it was a close game, they were the team that was more battle tested. But, Michigan fans all know that because we're Charmin soft, right? So I don't need to tell you guys that. But I think that could be if Ohio State can make them have the mentality of, okay, let's learn from this and move on, we'll just see.
What if that was Ryan's day, entire point this entire time, just using his big brain? I'm like, hey, I know more than these guys. I know more than everybody. I know if we lose, we'll still get in because our brand is big enough.
Okay. Okay.
Honestly, if Penn State, I wouldn't even know what to think if Penn State would be number 1. I'm like, I feel like we're back in in the 70s or 80s or something.
Right. Joe Ossover on the sideline.
I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
And you don't want to know what's going on in the locker rooms.
I feel like that happened in the 2000s, though, didn't it? In the 90s and 2000s?
Well, yeah, probably.
Either way, I don't want to find out.
Yeah. I'm with you. Penn State being number 1 is nauseating. Yes, it is, Mr. Fabulous. I agree. I'm with you. I don't see Oregon losing this. If there's obviously you've got Ryan Day, who we've talked about, who can't win a big game, but James Franklin is better at losing big games than Ryan Day is, I think. So I've got Oregon winning. Penn State, who we'll talk about where they end up when this conference championship, which is really crazy to me that we don't know the 12-team playoff, because then they say, well, I guess they said
who will be in,
right. We don't know the order because they said that they weren't going to make huge decisions based off win or loss in the conference championship games, but decisions will be made. Teams will be left out, and we will probably talk about that next week. So,
right.
Any final thoughts? This is your time to take a shot, Dennis. Take your shot.
I mean, I feel
you done.
I'm not done, but I also feel bad. I feel sorry for you already. I feel like you've done enough.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. It's college sports. This is what it's supposed to be. Yes.
I would find it interesting though if Ohio State does play Tennessee. I do want to see how you and Michael would or would not look at one another. I'm gonna be having fun in that group chat. Don't get me wrong.
That would be fun. We will see. We'll see if that happens. I mean,
are completely silent, and I'm like, "This is fun." I'm gonna start sending stuff just to irritate the other.
The question will be, who are you going to troll the most?
Like, because the funny thing is, like, I can make a fun of Day just messing up the big game, and Hypel has won certain games. I don't think he's been in a big game to this level yet. I mean, he's played versus Bama. Don't get me wrong,
right?
But I feel like
this is a game at this level,
new territory, though. I think for Tennessee as well. So I think it'll be overall pretty interesting. I just wish it was later in the playoffs, just to have a little bit more on the line.
Right. Get a nice natty Ohio State, Tennessee natty.
Like,
but
I don't see that happening either. Respectfully.
I don't either. So, but well, cool. Well, hey, you guys, we appreciate you joining us. We're gonna hop off here. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for joining the conversation. We appreciate you as always. And come back next time. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you later.
Let us know if you think Ryan Day will be back.
Oh yeah, there we go. That's a good one on our comments
for next week or even next year.
Week, next year, playoffs. When will Ryan Day be fired? All right, y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.